I've noticed that people are sometimes talking to me about themselves. Um, I hear people say things like, "I'm disappointed with myself," or "I'm proud of myself," or "I don't understand myself," or "I don't like myself." Um, I hear people say things like, I'm trying to find a way to forgive myself so that then I could love myself because my therapist tells me that I'm not going to make any progress if I continue to hate myself, and that indeed I need to love myself if I'm going to move ahead here and get some good stuff for myself. Uh, and Gosh, I think it's interesting. When you're hearing somebody talk like that, or if you're thinking like that yourself, then as you lay that out, what's the geography of it? In other words, when you're talking about being unhappy with yourself, where is the you you're calling I, as opposed to the you you're calling self? And so if you are judging yourself, where are you in relationship to yourself? Where is yourself in relationship to you? Um, and if you've been judging yourself, has yourself been judging you back? Um, or is it a one-way judgment? Um, just weird stuff to think about, huh? Um, but I think people, I would say to someone, well, so the you call I, the you call I, that's that's the one that um, one identifies with, right? Like I am trying to calm myself down. Apparently, I know that calmness is okay in this situation, and myself hasn't gotten the bulletin. Um, but what I find when people tell me that they hate themselves, and and I just think it's really something, really something, but I don't know what to call it. If somebody is miserable and goes to see a person who deals with folks who come in because they're miserable, and so says to that therapist, um, "I am miserable and I hate myself," and the therapist says, "Well, you can't possibly succeed if you continue hating yourself, and you actually need to love yourself." If if I'm feeling really discouraged anyway, unhappy, and I don't feel like I have much say about things, and I don't feel any sense of power. And you tell me that in order to accomplish anything, I have to begin. I have to begin. The first thing on the agenda for today is loving what I hate. Imagine you wake up in the morning and say, okay, first thing I got to do is love what I hate, and then I'll get out of bed. I don't know about you. I think I'd still be in bed a month later. How am I supposed to do that? How are we supposed to love what we hate? And what is it that people hate anyway when they say they hate themselves? So I don't think the people who are saying I really hate myself are going through some sort of deep philosophical weirdness, trying to discover what self is while they're busy hating it. I think when people say I hate myself, pretty much they mean they hate how they feel. Um, but how you feel, I don't think is yourself, although our language would lead us to experience how we feel as if it is ourselves. For instance, you might meet somebody who says, um, I am depressed. Um, I am sad. I am lonely. I am jealous. Um, oh, I'm Nancy. Nice to meet you. Um, so those are like feelings, and feelings change. Um, they don't necessarily feel like they're going to change, but they seem to change. And so if it's changing and it's not this, and then it's this, and then it's not that, and then it's that, then that doesn't make sense that that would be self. That's not you. That's just what you've been feeling at that moment. Also, the whole notion of believing that you need to be able to control yourself before you move forward to succeed in life. Well, I think if you tell somebody that in order to succeed, they first have to do things that are impossible, that pretty much guarantees failure. Now, the you call I can not, well, it can only do so much. It can't do very much. For instance, how many thoughts can the you that you identify with and call I, how many thoughts are you able to have simultaneously? How many things are you able to do consciously with purpose simultaneously? Um, most of us can't do many things at exactly the same time. I can do about one thing and think about one thought. Then I could think another thought and come back to the first part thought. That's not what I mean. How many can you actually think at once? Now let's think about self this way. Let's think that when people are talking self, they might be referring to the rest of their mind that's taking care of all of the things that are going on that you don't need to be consciously involved with. So, for instance, as I'm meeting with you, I um, am talking to you, which means that I'm saying a lot of words. And the words that I'm saying are in a particular order. Words are in a particular order, right? Not order particular. Words are, but words are in a particular order. But I'm not consciously putting the words in the order that you hear me speaking them in. And what else is going on? Well, I'm pronouncing the words. I have to make the S sound and the T sound and the vowel sounds and the consonant sounds, and I have to put them in order. And if I was consciously trying to do that, I'd probably still be on the first or second word, much to your relief. But I'm not. I'm way past that because the I that I don't call I, or the whatever it is that's me that I'm not calling I, and that instead I'm calling self, um, is doing all of that for me. So let's think of that rest of mind um, as subconscious or unconscious. Um, Sometimes I think I'm using those interchangeably. Um, well, that must be what's taking care of pronouncing the words when I'm speaking. And that's what puts the turn signal on before I make the turn. And that's what moves my foot to the brake when I see red lights in the back of the car in front of me. Um, and all of those things that are done automatically, which are just a ton of different things, all at the same time. So apparently, the rest of your mind, the thing we could think of as subconscious, unconscious, or I suppose self, is able to do a ton of things all at once. Now, how long can I consciously have a thought? Well, until I have the next one, since I can only have one. But how many things can self or unconscious be doing simultaneously? I mean, I could be taking a walk next to you, navigating around other pedestrians, stopping at lights, keeping body upright, um, eating an apple, having a conversation, having experiencing ideas, putting thoughts in order, all of that stuff is what self is doing, whereas I'm only able to do one thing. Hence, how do you how do you control yourself? Um, and some of you have children, and you have ideas as to what you'd like the children to do. Um, but how much control do you actually have? Well, you have a little bit more if your child is an infant than if he's 4, and much more 4 than if he's 14. But if you think of what it would be like to actually be controlling somebody, that means that person is becoming sort of like a puppet, and you got to pull all the strings. And if you're busy pulling all the strings on this kid, what about the rest of your life? So I don't think we're really actually looking for control, this hands-on involvement in making things happen, like regulating that puppet. But I think what perhaps would serve us better is influence. And then if there are others and I meet with those others, I am interested in influencing people, which will affect the way they think and feel and act and react and the whole thing, and be a lot easier on me than trying to control. Well, not just easier, but significantly more possible. So when people are training in RRT, one of the things that they're learning is to become more influential rather than more controlling. Um, and that would go all the way from being more influential with your, you guessed it, self, um, and all the other folks um, in your sphere to become more and more influential and to really be able to influence um, yourself, which means that if you have an idea that it would be best if you were feeling um, alert um, and curious um, and experiencing things as an adventure rather than sleepy, depressed, and experiencing life as a series of distasteful chores, that would be advantageous for you. And how would you get from the one to the other? Not with more control, but with increased influence. So, blah, blah. Anyway, that, oh, yeah, I did have something to say. Thank you for hanging out and waiting for it. I'm thinking that if I'm going to become more influential to one of you, the a good place for me to start is to be more understanding. And so with the RRT process, we start with understanding. And we've learned that with with most people in the mental health industry, they're taught to understand things in a certain way and in a certain order. And with RRT, it's really quite different in that we are particularly interested in understanding what the individual we're with would like to have understood rather than what's what we think ought to be understood. And as we develop this deeper understanding, along with it becomes more influence, because aren't you likely to be more influenced by somebody who means well for you if they seem to really understand you than if they don't?